back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Get me Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 1796 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Norman Ball fan. Joined alongside Ryan. Boy, what a weekend it was in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. The baseballs keep it going. I mean, swept through their own regional, which I feel like everyone expected that. Coming from a number one seed, you expect your team not to get to the loser's bracket, Arkansas. But we're going to keep this going here. We got Evansville coming up this weekend, which we'll talk about. But let's get into this weekend. I mean, I want to start off with just a quick segment here. Who was your standout guy? You have to pick one guy from the Tennessee roster, but who stood out the most and stepped up for this team this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good candidates, and honestly, most of them are towards the bottom of the batting order, which I could talk about two or three guys who stood out to me, but the main one, I don't see how you couldn't say Cal Stark, just based on how his season went and how he has absolutely just turned it on to a new level here in the first three games of the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even got probably we're going to remember it for a while. Tony V during an interview during the game, and Cal Stark hits his first bomb of the day. Absolute legendary type moment for Tony V. But, yeah, Cal Stark really stood out. I mean, Cal Stark in general, I mean, he's improved dramatically at the plate. I mean, now his batting average isn't, 234, it's not great, but last year he was batting 180. So it's an improvement. And even Tony V said during that interview, he really hopes he gets a shot because, behind the plate, he's a stud behind the plate. All the plays he's made, he's gotten better defensively, and his bat's improving, which I expect to keep, getting better as, his career goes on. But he's got great rapport with his pitchers. He's good with the umpires. He seems like a real leader. But, I expect him to be in a lot of people's spots for this weekend for sure. But I'm going to say Dean Curley. Dean Curley played, out of his mind. I mean, he finally got his 10th home run. He's starting to see the ball, the Dean Curley we saw at the beginning of the year. And we've talked about it. I mean, if Dean Curley could get it going and you got the normal six guys in front of him batting seventh, and if he's hitting like that, that's ridiculous. That lineup is so scary, and Cal Stark's heating up. And we've talked about it. We talked about the DH spot. If Tennessee could figure out the DH spot, I think this is Tennessee's year. I mean, their lineup's so stacked. I don't know what you think about that, but
Yeah, I kind of hinted at it. That's my main takeaway as far as good things that happened in the Knoxville Regional was Cal Stark, Hunter Inslee, Dean Curley making the bottom of that order, just as scary, like you just said. Because now that Hunter Inslee is batting fifth, the bottom of the order is Tiers, Curley, DH, and then Stark. So, yeah, if you figure out that DH spot or the DH is just serviceable, this lineup is going to be hard to stop. And, if that didn't happen, if the bottom of the order wasn't as good as it was this weekend, especially yesterday, I know we ended up scoring 12 runs. It was a laugher by the end of it, but we were down in the fifth inning. And the bottom of the order made stuff happen. And then because our top three hitters yesterday went 1 for 13.
I was going to bring that up.
And we still scored 12 runs and hit 5 homers. So it's very nice to see that even when Tennessee, didn't play their absolute best, they still won. I could also point to Drew Beam having a shaky start. That's about the only other bad thing, but still, they're not clicking on all cylinders yet they've just won their 12th straight regional game, which is astounding.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about Tony Vitello here for a second. And, before we get into all these false rumors that these other fans are saying that he's leaving. He's never going to leave Tennessee. I mean, at this point, he has created a powerhouse of a baseball program. His overall record at Tennessee is 203-60. He's 12-0 in regionals, 4 straight super regionals, 2 SEC regular championships, and 2 SEC tournament championships. And we've talked about it off the air. Tennessee would have to give this weekend away for him to not make his 3rd College World Series. So, I mean, and he's had so many people drafted under him. So I expect Tony V to be at Tennessee and Rocky Top for as long as he wants to be.
Absolutely. And shout out to Sullen Surf for digging up all those stats on Twitter. One of my favorite follows. So shout out to you, sir. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
He's
Tony
6'5", by the way. He's like 6'6", or whatever he is. I never would have guessed, but anyway.
What a beast. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, Tony can pretty much get whatever he wants in Knoxville now. So it would be tough to see him go anywhere. Like, I just do not see that happening. I totally agree. But I wanted to bring up just a few pitching notes over the weekend. You've this AJ Causey in the last 4 or 5 weeks is one of the best pitchers in the country. Like, he goes 6 2/3 after Stamos, gave up that home run and the double in the first inning on Friday night, and just steadied the ship enough to where we could win that game. I mean, we talked about that NKU could score, so it didn't surprise me that they hit a home run to start the game. Like, I was not surprised at that. So Causey dealing. Already said Beam had a shaky start on Saturday, not his best, but then Andrew Banky comes in, gives you 3 solid innings. And then on Sunday, I mean, Xander Sechrist, after taking that ball off the arm, pretty much like ragdolling to the ground, and then continuing to pitch that inning, getting a strikeout and a double play to get out of it. And then once he's gone, Snead coming in and closing out that game. I mean, not much more you can ask from the pitching over the weekend.
Yeah, and that's not to say AJ Causey's been good all year. I mean, the moment it was honestly one of Tony's best moves was doing the Stamos deal. We've talked about that before, but ever since he's done that, I mean, he's been pretty much unstoppable. That arm angle gets people, and that's what Evansville is going to run into a lot of trouble with him, because there's a good amount of lefties in their lineup, and it just makes it even harder because that ball tails away and it's just ground ball outs or strikeouts. And, that's going to be a tough task for them. And you know what? You can't slouch on anybody. Evansville went through, they played a lot of tough teams, and they did what they did. But you brought it up before we even started recording. You got to have a lot of magic to beat a team like Tennessee in their own ballpark where they're comfortable. And I mean, the bats are going. I mean, this weekend, the bats were going. Dreiling was hitting. Amick was hitting. Now, yesterday, the top 3 weren't hitting, but Billy Amick was crushing balls. Like, he almost, he about missed 2 home runs by like 4 feet. Blake Burke smoked a couple and just went straight to people. And Christian Moore just had a rough night. I mean, you're going to have those. But Christian Moore, man, I'm going to shout him out real quick. I understand he didn't have the night we're used to him having, but there are some professional at-bats. There are some, like, really good at-bats from Christian Moore to work a walk, or that one where he, bounced to second on a late fastball to get a run in. And it's just, the kid's a stud. I really hope he goes back to New York and becomes a Yankee, because I think he's going to be very, very special in the majors, because that kid, he could hit, and his defense has turned around. He played excellent defense this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more about Christian Moore. It seems like there's like 80% of his at-bats are productive at-bats, where he either gets a run in, gets a hit, draws a walk, gets on base somehow, or at the very least makes the pitcher throw some pitches. Like, it's very rare that he goes down easy. And, it's another reason that I'm confident for next weekend, this coming Super Regional against Evansville, is that we went 3-0 in a regional for the fourth year in a row without our best player being all that flashy. I know he hit a home run on Saturday, but that's pretty pedestrian for Christian Moore, for being honest. But
yeah,
like
he's usually a 2-3 home run kind of guy.
Yeah, over a weekend, yeah, especially in May. But no slouch to him. Like, I'm not talking bad about Christian Moore by any means, but when he plays that quiet for his standards, and we still just easily win a regional, like, it gives me confidence for the Super Regional coming up here in a few days.
Yeah. I know you said you had some stats on the Aces coming up, but I do want to, look at the the all tournament team. Tennessee was full of them. I mean, Cal Stark obviously had to be in there. Semo was in there. Billy Amick, Dylan Dreiling, Hunter Hensley. I'm actually, I kind of want to get your opinion on the Devin Taylor kid. A lot of people want him to come to Tennessee next year, and I feel like Lindsey Nelson Stadium is a ballpark for him. I mean, yeah. I'm not. I hate to admit it, but he was up to the plate, and I'm sitting behind home plate. He could definitely hear me. I know he could hear me. And right before his one home run on Saturday, I was saying swing and a miss, and he cranks one out. So if he does come to Tennessee, I will apologize. But yeah, there's a couple of guys that played this weekend that I wouldn't be shocked if this Tennessee staff would be interested in. But a lot of guys from Tennessee on that all regional team, which I'm kind of shocked Blake Burke wasn't there, but he didn't have a crazy weekend. So maybe, yeah. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think it was Slade Wilkes who got that nod, but really inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Nothing to be too angry about. But I mean, Devin Taylor, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Like,
well, we'll need a left fielder because Drawling's probably going to be gone.
Yeah, and it's just another bat. I mean, I'll take another bat any day of the week because you're going to lose a few, like you just said. So,
well, do you think that's actually a good question? And most likely he is. I'm not saying he's not going to be, but are we thinking, because he kind of reminds me of like a Maui Ahuna, where he got drafted, late 4th round?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Dylan Dryling's going to be a late 4th or like a early 5th round kind of guy. Do you leave or do you stay? Because Dylan Dreiling, you stay one more year, you might be a 1st round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just have to go through the process and see what's happening. But I mean, if I were him and I had another year to, continue to add to my legacy at Tennessee and continue to improve my draft stock, I might take it. But at the end of the day, in a lot of those situations, the money talks. So,
yeah, I don't know how the salary works with like 4th and 5th rounders. I know 1st through 3, like 1 through 3, it's like you're for sure probably gonna go. But I know Ahuna took it. He went with the Giants, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. But anyway, back to the regional. You got any more stuff to talk about for this weekend?
Well, just the overarching, we've already touched on how good Tony has been the last 4 years with the record and the 12-0 in regionals. But I think a lot of Tennessee fans since we've been a juggernaut in baseball, have taken for granted just how hard it is to do this. I mean, you've already mentioned it at the top of this. I mean, Arkansas can't get out of their own regional. 5 other SEC teams couldn't get out of the regional. In South Carolina, Arkansas, Vandy, Alabama, Mississippi State. LSU is still battling with North Carolina to get out of that regional. So this is not easy to do, to even make it to a super regional, much less Omaha. But we've done it 4 years in a row. Yeah, we're getting spoiled. I mean, that's exactly my point. So just stop and smell the roses for a second.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the moment.
Yes.
And hopefully we could take it all this year, man. This is the year, I think, and I said it the last podcast, like I didn't want to say it, but you made me say it type thing. But this is it, man. You got to No offense, Evansville. They've done incredible. I think now they're not America's team. I seen that on Twitter. They're not America's team. Stop it. But this is a free ride to Omaha. Okay, and they're still going to be good teams. I mean, Kentucky's got a rough path to get to Omaha. They got to play Oregon State, and Florida, same thing. There's a lot of good super regionals that these teams are going to have to play. But, like you said, you can't take this for granted. We got lucky this year. I mean, like I said, this is pretty much a free pass to get to Omaha, and hopefully they can run up the score and get some guys some rest and, stay healthy. My God, stay healthy. Thank God Sander is fine, because that could have been detrimental to this pitching staff.
Absolutely.
He needs to get a bigger or smaller hat. He's got to stop the hat drops. That was pissing me off. But yeah, you couldn't have said any better. I mean, this is not easy to do. These teams are going. Like LSU, they won the national title last year, and they're playing North Carolina right now in North Carolina's regional. Who would have thought that we were saying that? And then they got to go play a tough opponent after, not in LSU's stadium. So, like Ryan said, it's we got to definitely smell the roses, because it's not going to happen every year. I mean, do we want to say that because we're biased? Absolutely. And I think as long as Tony's here, we're obviously going to be in the spot to be in the tournament, but you got to enjoy it while it's here. So.
Absolutely, man. Now, let's take a little deep dive into the Evansville Purple Aces, which, by the way, is one of the best nicknames for any college sports team I've ever heard.
What's a purple ace?
Well, I'm assuming it's because of the casinos in Indiana.
So it's a blue ace but purple.
Sure, there you go.
or a red ace. I got it.
Yeah, but Evansville won the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. That's why they are here. A lot of magic over the weekend. They played East Carolina 3 times, went 2 for 1 against them. The one they lost was the Sunday game, which they were in the catbird seat, so it didn't matter. Since they won today, they advance. It's the 9th time in the history of the tournament that a 4th seed has won a regional. So this does not happen every day. I mean, this is the Cinderella of the tournament that Tennessee's about to face, but that doesn't mean that they are America's team, like you just said. So getting into the stats a little bit, Evansville is 147th in the country in ERA at 5.98, 44th in team batting average at 301, and 24th in runs scored. Now, some of those are skewed a little bit because they've obviously played more games than most of the teams in D1 now. So the rankings might be a little bit skewed, but they're still a solid team. And the main thing that stood out to me, just looking at their roster and how they're built, tons of upperclassmen. Like, this is an old team. They're experienced. But I'm going to toss it to you here. I mean, you were there this weekend, so I just want to get your opinion. Is a senior-laden team from anywhere ready for the environment that a super regional in Knoxville is going to be?
Crazy environment. Absolutely nuts. It was jam-packed. There was no – you had to be there 2 hours early to get, a standing room spot. It was that packed. But – no, you know what? I'm not hating on the Purple Aces. What a journey to get to this point. But we both agree. I mean, this is Tennessee's regional or super regional to lose. Now the Aces have an ace, and I'm going to give a shout out to Kerry Williams on Twitter because he did all this research. But yeah, they do have an ace, and he's really good. Kenton Deverman is their go-to. He has a 9-1 record on the year with a 3.81 ERA, 81 strikeouts to 20 walks, which is really good. Really, really good. He does give up 1 hit per inning statistically, so it's probably going to be bumped up a little bit because you got to remember they're playing in the MVC. This isn't they're coming to an SEC school who's number 1 in the country, and aren't we top 10 or even top 5 statistically in all categories?
Most hitting categories, yes. I mean, like I said, now the numbers are a little bit skewed because obviously your averages and your runs will go down the more games you add to it. So the numbers are skewed. But before the season, before this started, yes, Tennessee was top 5, if not top 10, if not top 5 in most offensive categories.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Kenton, he's a really good pitcher. You can't take anything away from him. He did go 8 innings in Game 1 against ECU with the 1 earned run, 3 hits, and 4 strikeouts. So this guy could pitch, but Tennessee is a better hitting team than ECU, and the environment's going to be a little bit more crazy. And like you said, I just don't see them continuing the magical run. Because this isn't like a basketball game where you have to win one game. You have to beat Tennessee twice in their stadium, and that's no feat. That there's a lot of SEC teams that couldn't do that this year. There wasn't any that could do that this year. So, and their day 2 guy. You have any comments on that guy though? I don't know if you have any.
I mean, Donovan Schultz, their day 2 guy. I mean, he has the second best ERA on the team, and it's 5.84. He gave up, I think it was 5 runs in 6 innings to VCU in the Saturday game that they won. But they also scored 17 runs in that game. Final score 17-11. So he wasn't really under any pressure. I think Tennessee can put a lot of pressure on him. And as for the day 3 guy, Kevin Reed. Yeah, Kevin Reed, 7.38 ERA, gave up 7 runs in 3 innings to ECU yesterday. A game that ECU won 19-6. So really after Deverman, their pitching takes a tremendous downgrade, which makes sense. I mean, there's not a lot of SEC teams who have 2 good starters. There's even less that have 3 good starters like Tennessee does. And talking about the bullpen, I mean, Tennessee also has the advantage there. I mean, I know a lot of these things are obvious when you're talking about a number 1 team and a 4-seed Cinderella team, but Shane Harris is their best guy out of the pen, who closed that game on Friday in relief of Deverman. And after that, the bullpen, you're looking at
no depth, 0,
6+ ERAs across the board after Shane Harris. So, I mean, I want to give respect to Evansville for doing what they did. I just don't see the magic carrying over 2 weekends in a row. I mean, say what you want about ECU. They have a top-notch pitching prospect that I'm glad we're not facing. They have a top-notch offense I'm glad we're not facing. I mean, that's just all there is to it. I would rather face Evansville every day of the week. I don't care what kind of voodoo magic you want to bring up. Give me Evansville.
The curse is over.
It's the best path to Omaha, and I will take it. All we got to do is get in the vehicle and drive this weekend.
Now, I do want to shout out their hitting though. These guys can hit. It's different though. Coming from to an SEC team, it's hard to. I understand, batting 389 is not an easy feat, but Mark Sallenberger, I think he's their left fielder. He actually hit the 3-run. Yeah, he hit the 3-run home run to take the lead today, late in the game. So this guy doesn't like to strike out. He's got 17 home runs. He bats second in their lineup.
Dude, his on base percentage is over 500. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, and he is their heart and soul. Like without him today, we're playing ECU this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like I said, it's kind of hard to put these into perspective because they don't play teams like SEC an SEC schedule. So the stats would be a little bit different. Like this team, if you put them in an SEC schedule, would have almost no chance to go. They wouldn't have a chance to get to the tournament, in my opinion. But it's just, you never know. Baseball is baseball, but like we said multiple times this podcast, this is Tennessee's super regional to lose. This is a grandma's pie right out of the oven. Here's Omaha type thing, So, but yeah, you can't take it for granted. But I expect Tennessee to win this one.
Yeah, and then this one more guy I'd like to shout out for Evansville, give him some credit. A guy that in the Cape Cod League last year, which if anybody doesn't know is basically a preview to the minor leagues in the MLB, where they do use wooden bats. This dude hit 308. Kip Fugers led the Purple Aces in home runs with 20 and RBIs with 64. He's another guy to watch out for. But
And I'm pretty sure he bats third.
Yeah, I mean he's there.
He hit a home run today.
Yeah, he's pretty good, and with the way Lindsey Nelson Field is, we're just gonna have to hold him in check. And you just brought it up. It reminded me, if Evansville were to play an SEC schedule, they did play Mississippi State this year in a early season series, got swept, did keep a few games close, and then they played Kentucky and Vanderbilt both in the midweek, lost those 2 games as well. So if that tells you anything how they fared against the SEC, they didn't win a game.
Let alone the best team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I understand everything's in a vacuum now. They are here. It's the tournament. Anything's possible, but all signs point to Tennessee making their third Omaha appearance in 4 years if they just take care of business, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm assuming are you calling your shot and saying you're taking the first 2 games and moving on, or?
I'll go ahead and say that. I just don't see a world where, because it seems like, I know this is going to be, I think it'll make sense if you've watched the team this year. Tennessee struggles more with the lesser known pitchers than the ones that are really good.
Well, they're going to be prepared for that guy.
Exactly.
I already forgot his name, but Deverman, yeah. Elander's going to be ready. Okay. They got all the stuff on him. Like I've said earlier, Christian Moore, major league hitter, Blake Burke, major league hitter, Billy Amick, major league hitter. You got all these guys, 1 through 6, even 7, if Dean Curley stays hot, that are major league hitters. So I'm not worried about a guy like Deverman at home, So we're going to be comfortable. We're feeling good. We just swept our regional, It's and I'm going to say we're beating this up. It's our Super to lose.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's as simple as that. I just bring that up because it seems like Tennessee struggles more with the noodle arm pitchers, the sidewinders, the slow lefties. The Kirby Cannell types than any other pitcher. So I foresee a win on Friday and Donovan Schultz leaving the game early and us getting into that bullpen that is really not up to snuff.
Yeah, and Deverman's a righty, ain't he?
I couldn't tell you.
I'm looking it up right now because if he is, that's definitely another thing to head upon because Tennessee destroys righties.
He is a lefty.
But okay, yeah. So that's good for them because Tennessee struggles with lefties more than they do righties. So it's going to be interesting, and he's a freshman. Expect a team like Tennessee to be talking to this kid after this regional, though.
Oh, that's how we got a lot of. Chase Dolander didn't start at Tennessee. Nate Snead didn't start at Tennessee. If Tony likes what he sees, he'll definitely, I don't want to say do some tampering, but do some tampering.
Crazy ass Frank gonna get him. He gonna get him.
Yep.
But that's pretty much it on the Purple Aces. He's the one guy that stands out that says that's their guy, and we already talked about their 2 hitting guys. Other than that, without these 2 guys that we talked about at the beginning of their lineup, their batting average would be a lot lower. When you got a guy batting almost 400 and a guy batting 350, it boosts your team average up a lot. So,
yeah, in this, they played an extra game. Their bullpen is already far inferior to Tennessee's. They're facing a road environment for the second straight weekend. And if they do win a game in game 1 or 2, game 3 will be a problem because in their third game of the regional, they got blitzed 19-6. So, it's just all there is to it, man. I mean, Tennessee should win this. Anything else would be a massive failure.
And a heartbreaker. That would hurt. It would definitely hurt. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the baseball talks. To end the baseball talks though, let's do what we did last week and talk about the one guy you expect to have a big weekend. I already have mine, so I'm interested to hear yours.
I think I'll match yours, Christian Moore. Like,
Yep.
I mean, when he is as quiet as he was this weekend, I expect him to bust out against the Purple Aces.
Yeah, I was about to say the same guy. He kind of reminded me of like Billy Amick after Hoover. It was just, and I expect Billy to do good again. Billy's been seeing the ball. He's been crushing the ball. He's just been hitting it to somebody, and I expect his bat to stay hot. I expect to see Blake Burke be doing Blake Burke things again. But yeah, so we're on that baseball talk, but let's talk about some big news today from, Stephen Wiltfong put a little cheddar out there, a little good news for Tennessee football. Brandon Faizon, quarterback for the 2026 class, he is the number one player in that class. He put a prediction that he'll commit to Tennessee, and everyone's figured he'd come here because he's been Hendon Hooker's been in his ear about Tennessee for a little bit. But kid's 6'4", 195, reminds me a lot of Nico. Nico's a little bit taller than him, but about the same size, same kind of gameplay. He could run, he could throw. So I don't know if you watched any tape on him, but the kid could ball. The kid's from Greensboro, North Carolina. He could ball. The one thing I don't like about these Fongbongs for kids in like the 2026 class, there's a lot of time left in between. A lot of time to decommit, go somewhere else, So I don't know. What's your take on him?
I mean, it would just be another elite quarterback to add into the fold for later in the future. I mean, if he's endorsed by Hendon Hooker, I'd
take him.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, I agree that it's a long ways out, but so was Nico, so was George McIntyre, and we were able to land them. So,
he's going to be getting a pretty bag. He's going to be getting a pretty bag as well.
Diamond encrusted, like it better be. I mean, because he merits it.
Yeah, he's got a very. I'm reading Andrew Ivins, director of scouting for 247. I'm gonna read this real quick. Ascending signal caller that possesses a rare blend of pocket passer size and dual threat athleticism to go along with high powered arm. He had a good sophomore season, ranking first in the class. Let's see. Yeah, he's a dual threat. That's what I get from that whole spiel. I'm not gonna read that whole thing. But last year he had 277 passing attempts, 191 completions, 3,000 yards, 36 passing touchdowns to 3 interceptions, and 85 rushing attempts for 500 yards with 9 rushing touchdowns. This kid's good.
Yeah. I mean, he's number one quarterback for 2026. I mean, he's the term can't miss prospect is pretty spot on for this dude. It's funny just sitting here reading his comments after his most recent visit, the Night in Neyland event. He said it was divinely a good time. So he obviously has a pretty good vocabulary too. And he's he's nothing but complimentary of the coaches, Joey Halsey, Josh Heupel, and not to mention it was his birthday weekend that he chose to spend in Knoxville. So
a lot of good things.
It's looking good now. We just got to close it out in the next 18 months.
Absolutely. I mean, the football team's looking good all around. We've talked about it before. I mean, you're rolling into the players that Josh Heupel and this staff have went out and got. So you have a lot of good offensive linemen that could come in too to protect him. So, it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting on how good this football team could stay, because after today, I don't know if you saw, On3 posted that Tennessee is number 9 in the FPI. So after the portal additions and spring football, Tennessee moved up to the top 10 above Missouri, which is huge, which I expected because Tennessee's football team, I mean, we're getting all our defensive line back plus some. The only in question position we have is the secondary, in my opinion, and our left guard. Who's going to be our left guard? But they could still go out and get someone if they have to. But I expect somebody to take that spot that's already on the team.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before. Where guard, if you're going to pick a spot on the offensive line to be looking for a guy at, one of the guard spots is it. As long as you got a center and 2 tackles, you can put an average guard in there and it work out okay. So Tennessee's in a good spot on both lines. They're in a decent spot in the secondary. I certainly don't think it'll be worse at times as it was last year after Haddon went down with his injury. But like you said, man, I mean, the next month or two leading up to this football season will be really fun to talk about. And I think Tennessee nationally is not getting respect, which really doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It matters what you do on the field, but I think Tennessee's going to surprise a lot of people next year.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about it. I think the game of the year to see how Tennessee is going to end up doing is, they have to go out and beat Oklahoma. I think if they win Oklahoma, the season's going to be just a beaut. If you lose that game, it's like it just hits you with that feeling that what the Florida game gave us last year. We all thought that they were going to go in, beat Florida, and then their season would look really pretty if they beat Florida. So, it's going to be interesting. But they got a lot of games at home this year, a lot of tough games at home that they should win. But it's going to be interesting. You got Kalen DeBoer coming into Neyland for the first time. So this is one year that you could sneak a game from Alabama. I mean, they still have all the talent, pretty much. I mean, they got Jalen Milroe that stayed, that they probably paid a crap ton to keep him there. Yep. But Tennessee, this is Tennessee's season to where I could see them, usually when they say Tennessee's going to be good, they usually do bad. So I'm hoping when they say Tennessee's going to be mediocre, they perform outstanding like they did in 2022.
I mean, that seems to work out. That's how it happens a lot. I mean, it's just I think the weight of preseason expectations can be a bad thing. If you are being told everywhere you go that y'all are going to be great this year, and you get tight living up to those expectations, things go south like they did in 2016, like they did at times last year. I know last year wasn't too terribly hyped up, but it's just I think Tennessee football's in a good spot leading into 2024's season, and I couldn't be more excited for that either. I mean, I say it all the time on this podcast, but there's not many better times than right now to be a Tennessee fan of all sports.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is good. Obviously, the Lady Vol softball team let us down a little bit, but between Kim Caldwell, the softball team's always going to be good. Baseball's looking great. Football's looking great. Basketball's looking great. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. Tennis, golf, they all did. Everything around Tennessee is just a winning program, which is great to have. But, other than that, I didn't have anything else on my time card for this podcast. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, man, I'm just ready to kick some Purple Ace ass and get to Omaha, man.
Yeah, let's get to Nebraska and go whoop some Blue Jay ass again. But it's gonna be interesting. We'll see who all gets there. I think LSU is still winning right now, 3-2. So we'll see if LSU is another SEC team that goes to Super. And but other than that, let's go win a Super Regional and get to Omaha, like Ryan just said. Go Vols, baby.
Go Vols.